So, after evolutive learning, we go to eductive learning or eductive stability, something I have been interested for some time. So I'll try to give you in a sense, coordination has not been perfect, so a number of things I had prepared overlap with what Florian said yesterday, or what George said this morning. Not quite with what Mordecai said yesterday, but maybe I'll try to do my best. Okay. So I'll start with some general remarks on rational expectation equilibria. They will be very quick. We could talk for a long time on the history of rational expectation and the takeover of the rational expectation hypothesis in economic modeling, starting from Moos model in the 60s on the invasion of all territories of economic theory. But I like, so I remind you about maybe what Florian said yesterday was also arguing along this line, okay? Rational expectation hypothesis relates with the fact that agents are infinitely clairvoyant, and not infinitely selfish. Okay, and the argument by Moos is that it refers to the relevant economic theory. So agents do not make systematic mistake. They make the best prediction compatible with their information. And it has often been argued when I was younger that the rational expectation hypothesis was nothing else but the extension of rationality hypothesis to expectation. I heard that many times. It was written. But well, this is wrong. Having rational expectation is not a dominant strategy. It's rational to have rational expectation when others have rational expectation. It's not rational when they don't have it. It's a Nash equilibrium, okay, as we know. Now I remind you about the takeover of the rational expectation hypothesis, general equilibrium, but general equilibrium has always more or less implicitly rational expectation, maybe, if we refer to the answer of Walras to Poincaré, as mentioned by Florian yesterday at least, and macroeconomic theory, finance, etc. And the question is that, is it a deus machina? Is it a reasonable assumption? Is it a rather blind point of economic theory? That's the question we are all interested in here. And I'll discuss my viewpoint within a framework that I sketched at the outset. I will come back to it a number of times, okay? And in order to discuss it, I take a simplified framework in which agents are small, they are infinitesimal, they are concerned with their own action, and with the aggregate state of the economy. Okay? And they have no influence on the aggregate state of the economy. They're atomistic. Okay? And naturally, both the aggregate state or your own action may be something very complex. Okay? But in particular, the aggregate state of the economy can be a number, is what happens in the Moos model. It can be a probability distribution in the Moos model with noise. It's a probability distribution. It can be a price vector. It can be, in finance, the function of the price of an asset as a function of something. Okay, that's E. In infinite horizon model, it's a trajectory. Okay, deterministic or random trajectory. So at this level of generality, you can take a number of. So I remind you about what is the rational expectation hypothesis. It's really that in this world, at least in this world, what each agent does depends on his expectation of the aggregate state of the economy, which I denote here B star of I. Okay. And then the actual state is a function of the belief of the people on the aggregate states. That's in this world. You have to guess what the aggregate state. You have probability distribution on the aggregate state, and then what happens depends on that only in my simple word. And the rational expectation hypothesis equilibrium, is that it's a state E star, such that if everybody believes that E star will take place, again E star may be a complex random variable and so on, then it takes place. Okay. Now I'll come back to Moos and to the model of farmers, the partial equilibrium models of farmers that was also introduced yesterday by Florian. Okay, in this model, the state of the system is the price tomorrow, or equivalently in the simple version, the crop tomorrow, the crop that will be available tomorrow. And that's a number if you have no uncertainty. It's more complex if you have uncertainty. Here is the model, and you have a so that's standard textbook model. You have the price along the horizontal axis. You have the quantity along the vertical axis. You have the aggregate supply that aggregates the supply of all small farmers. Aggregate competitive supply, okay, which is competitive supply being what the farmer wants to do if they know for sure that the price is P. Okay, and you have the aggregate demand tomorrow, and the equilibrium is at the intersection of the competitive supply, aggregate competitive supply on aggregate demand. And then the model is, if you can input noise here, the model becomes a little bit more sophisticated, but it's the same idea basically. So nothing I should. So I'll come now to what is the inductive viewpoint. I will try to define what it is, although it has many possible definitions. Okay, the first, what will be inductive robustness for the equilibrium. It starts from a fundamentalist viewpoint to start at least. Okay, you assume that you have common knowledge of the model. All the agents in society, all these farmers know the model. That means they know the aggregate demand tomorrow, and they know what are the technology of all the other farmers. So if they know the technology on the way they behave, okay, so they know what the other farmer will do if they add a price that they face for sure P. Okay, they can compute that. In particular, they can compute the aggregate supply, whether it's relevant for their thinking or not is entirely open at this stage. Okay. Now you assume common knowledge of rationality, of the model and of rationality, so you know that people are rational, you know that they know that they are rational, and so on and so on. And you try to see whether this triggers common knowledge of the equilibrium. Okay, in fact, it's the logic of rational expectation equilibrium is nothing else than the extension of the rationality hypothesis. Okay, what I'm trying to do is whether the rational expectation equilibrium is nothing else than the extension of the common knowledge of rationality hypothesis, in a sense. But only there will be, I will come, that's the global view, okay? I will come to a local view of that, and I will stress that besides this hyper-rationalistic view of inductive stability, there is the high-tech view, there is a very, very low-tech view, okay? It can be explained in something that only refers to rationality. Okay, this is what Florian presented yesterday. I'll do it again, okay. That's the argument that shows that in this model, with the supply curve and the demand curve like this, common knowledge of the model and of rationality implies common knowledge of the equilibrium. Okay, in this model, people know that the price cannot be higher than the maximum price. That it will be good to have something to show where it is, but the maximum price. So you know that nobody will supply more than that it will supply if the price where's this maximum price. Okay, so you know that total supply will be smaller than the competitive aggregate supply for this price. Then from that, if total supply is not too high, given this assumption, then the price cannot be too low. The equilibrium price cannot be too low. And it can be not be lower than P1, which is obtained by equalizing supply and demand, supply being C of P0. Okay, and P1 is the price which is below, which is on the other side. So after one step of reasoning, people know that the price should be smaller than P0 and greater than P1. And P1 and P0 on both sides of P star. But now they know that, as everybody knows that the price should be greater than P1, supply should be, oh yes, thank you, that's very nice. The question is I have to find. Hello? Okay, thank you. Maybe it will work. Oh yes. Question I can. Okay, maybe I will do next time. Okay. So the price will be between P1 and P0. Everybody knows that the price will be greater than P1. So nobody will supply at its own level less than will supply if he knew that the price were P1. Then aggregate supply will be more than C of P1. But then, if aggregate supply is more than C of P1, the price will be smaller than the equilibrium price when aggregate supply is C of P1, which is P2, okay, which is on the other side. And after two steps here, you are almost at, you know that the price between P1 and P2, and that's very close to the equilibrium price. And if you go on, you go to the equilibrium price. Okay, so a very simple argument saying that if people think about the system in this world, they will pick up the right price. At least even if they don't think very much, okay, as soon as they understand the system in a way that is minimal, and they believe that the others have the same minimal understanding. Okay, here, yes, I do it. Okay, here is the same. This argument is made here in the in the plane of aggregate supply, aggregate demand. You can naturally make this argument in terms of price or in terms of quantity. Okay, and to say that people think about the quantity, the crop, the size of the crop would be here, and you have a connection between the expected size of the crop and the realized size of the crop. Okay. The higher the crop is expected, the smaller will be the price, and then the smaller will be the quantity that put on the market. Okay. So the connection between, I am really very bad. I think there is a red one. Oh yeah. Okay, I should. Okay, I should stop. Here is the mapping from expected crop to realized crop. Okay. If the expected crop is very low, then the realized crop is very high because you expect that price will be very high. And if it's very expected crop is very high, the realized crop will be very low. Okay. That's put the emphasis. I could put it in the terms of price. Okay, if the expected price is very high, then the realized price is very low, and so on. I can put it in terms of price or in terms of quantity. I want to suggest and to stress that here you have strategic substitutability. You are in a world with strategic substitutability. Okay, and the world looks somewhat different when you are with strategic substitutability as with strategic complementarity. I will show in some time. Now, so that's a very sophisticated viewpoint. Now I'll take the view that's called deductive learning. Okay, strong rationality, deductive stability, global deductive stability, how you want. But now, what's the connection with evolutive learning? Okay. I'll take here the case when you have adaptive learning. Okay, in the sense that the price at T, people have a price expectation. Okay, P expected at T minus 1 for T. Now they look at the price at T. No, it stops, okay? There is some problem. It becomes red and it stops. Okay? I cannot stop it. So you see P of t minus 1 on t, and you correct. You look at P of t, okay? And if you made a mistake, you correct, and you correct more or less quickly, depending on whether A is great or small. Okay, the coefficient t, small a that is smaller than 1. So you have a correction coefficient A, depending on the mistake you have made. That's the adaptive learning rule. In this model, computing what does the adaptive learning rule is very simple. Okay, it's a simple algebra. What conclusion do you get? First, in a sense, the conclusions are not a completely different flavor. In a sense, they have a similar flavor. Okay. But before just giving the conclusion, I should say, but no, we have learning rules. Okay, evolutive learning rule. Why would not? Is there not an optimal evolutive learning rule? Okay. The answer is that what is the best learning rule, again, is a Nash equilibrium. It's not, there is no dominant strategy. Okay, it depends what the learning rule of the others. Okay, it's a Nash equilibrium. Now, if we were thinking about this Nash equilibrium in terms of inductive stability, we'll face the same problem as here. Okay, so we could not converge on the right evolutive learning rule if NA. Okay, or in the right Nash equilibrium if NA. Now look at what happens in terms of for this. For my simple Moose model. Okay, I have C over B. So C over B, smaller than 1, is a condition for inductive stability. The supply, the elasticity of supply should not be too high compared to the elasticity of demand. It should be smaller. Okay, which makes naturally intuitive sense. Okay, if there are no elasticity of supply, that means you are sure about the size of the crop. And if you are sure about the size of the crop, you know the price. Okay, so that makes perfect economic intuitive sense. Okay, and if there is a high elasticity of supply, it's very difficult to predict the price predicted by others because they are very sensitive to the idea that they have on what happens. Okay. Now, if you look at from the viewpoint of evolutive learning, you see that for C over B smaller than 1, which is the good case for me, it's also the good case for evolutive learning, in the sense that all learning rules converge, whatever A, when C over B is smaller than 1, they converge to the, in real time, to the equilibrium. Okay. Now, when C over B becomes larger than 1, which is a bad case for me, it's also start becoming bad for adaptive learning, in the sense that here you see the set of alpha as a function of C over B for which you have convergence of the learning rule. You see, for example, if C over B is very high, the alpha for which you have convergence of the adaptive learning rule are very small alpha. Alpha when you don't react too much to the... And actually, that very small alpha is a case that was emphasized by George in his talk. Okay, it's a case where differentialized stability matters. Okay. But you see that if you converge with very small alpha, you should also understand that it takes a lot of time to converge. Okay. When you change only slightly your price prediction with this small alpha, when you correct very slowly, you also converge very slowly. So I just want to make, and that's a general argument, that the connection between the very abstract inductive learning view and the evolutive learning story, there are very close connections for reasons I may explain later. Okay, now, naturally, here we are in a model in which we have linear, there is a single equilibrium. Okay, in general, we have nonlinear models. We have maybe several equilibria. And naturally, the idea that are here can be transposed locally. Okay, what will be the local transposition from the high-tech view is that take a neighborhood of the equilibrium, okay, not the equilibrium itself, and assume that hypothetically it's common knowledge. Okay, everybody knows that, everybody knows that, everybody knows that the state of the system will be in V of E star. Okay? And then the mental process can start from that. Okay, and start the same mental process. Does it converge or does it not converge? When it converges, I will say it's locally inductively stable. Okay. Actually, for the Moose model, if you take the local viewpoint, the answer is that local inductive stability, when it's no longer linear but non-linear, local inductive stability only relates with the slope of supply and demand at equilibrium. And the elasticity of supply should be smaller than the elasticity of demand. That's the local inductive stability viewpoint. Okay. The question you raise here, in a sense, you know, if you say it's common knowledge that E equals E star, this assertion makes sense. Okay, it's not contradictory. It may be the case that you know that E equals E star, you know that I know that it's E star, and so on. It's not contradictory. Now, when you have no local inductive stability in my sense, that means you have no neighborhood in which this is true, for which is that means that the assertion, it's common knowledge that the state of the system will be in a neighborhood of E star is meaningless. Okay, it has no meaning. It cannot be sustained. Okay, if you say that hypothetically, it will be destroyed by. It's not a belief that is credible. Okay, it's wrong only. Okay. Now we say this is very abstract. Okay, it looks like on the side of game theory in a special setting, because I am in a special setting. But another way to think about it, it's what I call the low-tech view, which is almost equivalent, can be proved exactly. I mean, you need some small assumption to prove it, but I am only asking the question, can you find the neighborhood of the equilibrium such that if everybody believes that the state will be in this neighborhood, it will be. For sure. Whatever you don't know whether the belief will be close to the equilibrium far, but it will be in the neighborhood. So the question is that can we find the question is equivalent to this one. Can we find a non-trivial neighborhood of equilibrium so that if everybody believes that the state will be in it will surely be? If the answer is yes, the answer is yes when you have local inductive stability. It's not if you have no inductive stability. Then you understand why there is a connection between evolutive learning and inductive learning. Because when this condition is not satisfied, that means that even if you take an adaptive learning system, of evolutive learning system, at some stage you are very close to the equilibrium. Okay? All the beliefs are in this neighborhood. You cannot be sure, if this is not true, that next step you will remain in the neighborhood. You cannot be sure. The beliefs can be such that you will be outside the neighborhood next time. Okay. So that's, I think that explains the connection. Naturally, it's more demanding than what you demand with, when you take a given learning rule. So, some remark. First, how should we take this? How should you take this criterion? Okay, it's a stability criterion in a sense. Okay, if you have a unique rational expectation equilibrium is globally stable, that's good for it in a sense. Okay, we have what I tend to believe as a rather strong argument. Okay, because it's also locally stable. Okay, so if you have a multiplicity, okay, local stability may be viewed as a selection device. It's allowed to choose between different equilibria. Some of them may be expectationally, may be stable, some of them may not be stable. Okay. But in fact, it's not quite true. It's not a refinement device. The reason is that it could be the case that no equilibrium is selected. Okay. You might say, no equilibrium is good. For example, when you have unique equilibrium, it may be inductively unstable. That's certainly stable. Okay. So, the second remark is that view like this is a 0-1 criterion. Either you take it or you leave it. In fact, you understand that it's more flexible. Okay, when you are close to 1. Okay, the case examined by Florian yesterday, where you have 20 over 21 on the law of motion. When you are close to 1, then you are close to instability, although you are in case of stability. Okay, when you are slightly above 1, you are not very. you are outside the game. The game fails here, but still you are not very far from stability. So probably. So I think it will be. If you think that this is a useful approach, it should probably be viewed as something that indicates whether the equilibrium you think about is likely or not, or unlikely according to your view of the world. Because also, on the local view, what does it describe? What is the intuition behind the local view? It's really an intuition that the elasticity of realization vis-à-vis expectation is small enough. Okay. In the sense that you have expectation and you have realization. If realization are very sensitive to expectation, then this criterion tells you we should be very cautious. Okay. If this criterion is really a criterion of stability of realization vis-à-vis of expectation. So that's another. Now the second remark is that it does not provide an alternative. So I'll come to the question I raised. It was raised by Mordecai yesterday, and I raised the question too. It doesn't provide an alternative when, okay, if you believe in this story, in some cases you should say, I like this rational expectation equilibrium. In some cases you should say, I don't believe in it. But if you don't believe in it, what do you believe in? Okay. Apparently, this is a very negative view. In fact, it's not, because if you go on taking the game theoretical viewpoint, you might be interested in the set of rationalizable states of the system. As I will show you in a number of cases, we can characterize the rationalizable states of the system. Okay. So that's the first part. Now, so that's the general introduction. Now, we'll give some formal property remaining in the model I have sketched. Okay. You have small agent, you have a state of the economy which is, for which they are concerned, which may be anything. And I'll try to be a little bit more formal. Okay, that's, I take that from a paper that I wrote with Pedro, with here. So, agents are small. That's the framework I sketch. And the basic object is the best response function of Mr. I. Okay, if Mr. I believes that the state of the economy is E, then its best response is B of I of E, which is called also gamma of I of E. Or its best response if he believes that it's something that it has a probability distribution on X, it's called a B, a different B of I of P of X, which is a probability distribution on X. Okay. Now, I repeat what is an equilibrium. Okay, it's E star such that gamma of E star, which is the sum of BI of E star P of I, equal E star. Okay, so I repeat. Now, in this setting, you can define a number of concepts. Okay, the first one is that what we call the cobweb mapping. What is a cobweb mapping? It's very simple. You take the Moose model. You think that people have some start from a expected crop, okay, and you look at realized crop. With realized crop, you take it as a data and you compute the second iterate of that, which is realized crop when realized crop is consequence of the realization of expected crop, and you go on. Okay, it's clearly what happens in the cobweb tâtonnement, where people believe that tomorrow will be like today. Okay, so you take the last data, the last thing you have, and you compute the best, what is the best response of people, the aggregate best response, and you iterate. Okay. This may or may not have, so this has a limit for each point you take. No? There is a set that you can call the cobweb mapping. Okay, you call it, I'm sorry, the cobweb tâtonnement outcome. Okay. For example, in the Moose model, with the version I presented here, the cobweb tâtonnement outcome is really the equilibrium, only the equilibrium. But if C greater than B, it's much bigger than the equilibrium. Now you have a second concept which comes more from game theory, but which is very easy to understand also. You take a set, okay, And you say that people have expectation in this set. You call it X. Okay. And you want that this set be stable in a following sense. If you take the point expectation of people in this set, then the outcome is in this set. First point. Second, you want that any point in this set can be viewed as the outcome of point expectation in this set, okay, which is the other way around. Okay. And you take the biggest set that has this property, and you call it the set of point rationalizable states. Okay. That's a subset that is contains all equilibria and so on. Okay. Now the last concept I will not describe is really the standard game theoretical rationalizability set. Okay, you take a set, and now if people have stochastic belief on this set, then the outcome is in this set, and any outcome in this set is generated by stochastic belief in this set. Okay, that's the standard rationalizable set in this setting. Okay. Now what happens? Naturally, what we have here is obviously the set of equilibria. This is inclusion is included in this convex hull of the set of equilibrium, which is included in the Cournot tâtonnement outcome, which is included in the point rationalizable set, which is included in the rationalizable set. And it turns out that after the forgetting about E, the set of equilibria, then all the other sets are convex, which, okay, coming from general equilibrium in the 70s, I like that. No, I found it seemed that in the 21st century it's a less interesting property, but I like all these sets are convex. Okay, and naturally when E equals C, we have the concept of inductive stability that depends on whether E equals C, P, and so on. I will show you what, no, I will show, and you also have a local view of that, okay? The local view, you have the fact that the cobweb tâtonnement converge locally. We call that iterative stability, because it's close to iterative stability in the sense of George, but not the iterative stability that he publicized today, but one concept that he introduced 30 years ago, which is called iterative expectational stability. Okay, I will come back on that. Okay, now I'll show you what's going on in the case of when the world has strategic complementarities in all dimensions. Okay, it's multidimensional, but the more you have of something, the more you react. Okay, in all dimensions. Okay, you have strategic stability. Then in that case, and the result we get here are only the counterpart of well-known result in game theory. The theorem in game theory do not apply to our setting, so we have to redo it to make it, but they are well known in game theory. And then it says that in this setting you have a smallest and a biggest, largest equilibrium. Okay, and that all the, for example, the point rationalizable set is a convex set that goes between the smallest and the largest equilibrium. Okay, and they are in between. Okay, which I can. And all these sets are convex. I will go some pick. So in the one-dimensional case, I look at Alberto because yesterday he had a picture which was the other side. But in the one-dimensional case, it was a strategic complementarity stuff. So what does this theory say? It says that in the one-dimensional case, you have the smallest equilibrium, the largest equilibrium, you have a middle equilibrium. What is a set of point rationalizable cobweb tâtonnement outcome or rationalizable set is everything in between. Okay. Naturally, but when you have a unique equilibrium like this, all these sets are the same. Okay. You are in the set of, in the case of inductive stability, you like it. Okay. Here you have all this that is so. So if you believe in this theory, the prediction here is unique. Here it's far from being unique. Okay. Now, if you look at from the local viewpoint, the smallest and the largest equilibrium here are good. The intermediate one is bad. Contrary, and naturally, on the picture you put yesterday on the blackboard, the middle was good. Okay, so I thought it was very good for the theory, but no, it doesn't seem to be good. Now, here in the two-dimensional version of this world with strategic complementarities, you have two equilibria, smallest one, largest one, and in between you have a convex set, and all this is rationalizable, or point rationalizable, and so on. So that will be the outcome I will predict if I stick to this story. Now, what is the outcome in the cobweb model now? Cobweb model is different. You have so I forget the local point. You have strategic substitutability. So we look at the case where you have strategic substitutability in all dimensions, and we found a theorem like the one for strategic complementarity, but where the set were not between two equilibria, we are in a world in which we have only one equilibrium, with strategic substitutability is more likely, but between the cycles of order 2. Okay, so the story is the same as here. Okay, what happens in a world with strategic substitutability, but this set is between the cycle of order 2, the smallest and the largest, the cycles of order 2 that is the largest one, in a sense. For example, for the Moose model, assume that the best response function is like this. Here you see that's the expected crop along this line on realized crop. So the equilibrium crop is here. The slope is greater than 1, so it's not deductively stable locally. But you see there is a cycle of order 2. If you believe that the crop is high, it's slow. If you believe that it's slow, it's high at the same level, at the cycle of order 2. Okay. According to this theory, this cycle of order 2 is the attracting set. Okay, so that's a rather larger set. When you are in this set, when people have expectation in this set, what happens is this set, and every point in this set is generated by expectation in this set. Okay. And that really was the case where you have problems with evolutive learning also. So I don't know whether this connection with the rational belief state, but that will be interesting to think about it more. Now, how much time do I have, Chairman? Mr. Chairman, how much time do I have still?
You have about 35 minutes.
35 minutes. So I will show you a variety of applications. Okay, I will go rather quickly. What I want to show you is that I don't say you should accept this viewpoint. I only say that if you accept this viewpoint, you change your view on a number of subjects. Okay? It's true also for adaptive learning. So I will first take... I take advantage of my position to just talk about a paper that I published almost 30 years ago with Jean-Charles Rocher, who was here yesterday, but a paper which we call Destabilizing Speculation. Okay, it was very unpopular because the title was unpopular, maybe for other reasons you will see. The question is that what is the conventional wisdom? And the question is behind is really an important question given what has happened in the financial world. What is the use of new financial instruments? Okay. So the conventional wisdom is that they lower transaction costs, okay, and they improve risk sharing. Okay, the more tools you have, the more way you have to share risk and so on. But while they have a certain objection, is that one is abuse after the crisis. They affected in a very negative way the transparency of the problem. Okay, people who had this MBS, mortgage-based security, had very little information on what was in it. Even little information on the proportion of low quality, medium quality, and high quality MBS. I can tell you very nice story on that. But anyway, so it certainly affects the transparency. Now the question I want to look at, we tried to look at with Jean-Charles, is that can it affect the quality of expectational coordination as assessed with our criterion? Okay? For that, is speculation stabilizing or not? Okay. Standard argument by Milton Friedman is that speculation is stabilizing. Why is speculation stabilizing? Because when you have speculators, then if the price increases, then speculators sell to make money, and the price decreases, they buy, and then this stabilizes towards the mean, the stuff. And this result, at the time we looked at that with Jean-Charles, we have seen many models in which you have this result. Okay? This result has some robustness. It's less robust in a world in which you have several periods, asset pricing model, in which the fact that the price increases may signal an increase of the next period. So there are many models in which this is true. So we have looked at what we have shown. Maybe I show you the model we consider. I'm afraid there is a mix of my. We had a world in which we had people where there was wheat falling from heaven, okay, manna, like in the desert. You have manna every day, okay. The question is random, okay. And there are people who store, okay. When the manna is big, then it's good to store because it will be likely that tomorrow it will be less and there will be a price difference, so you store and so on. So that's a model, that's a very simple model in which you have storage today depends on expected storage. Okay, it's like the Moose model. We have exactly the same timing. Okay, and like in the Moose model, we have strategic stability. So if you expect that people do not store at all, then there is a number of people who will store, not plus infinity, but they will, because you have only a finite gain. So that was on my. I tried last time, but I am a little bit desperate. Ah yes, okay. So now it disappears. Okay. So here you have an expected storage and realized storage. Okay. The higher expected storage, the lower realized storage, and you have an equilibrium, which is the storage equilibrium. That's all. Now this storage equilibrium, if we take our criterion, is inductively stable when this slope has some properties. Okay. This property depends on all the features of the model. The risk aversion of the people, the variance of the noise, and so on, the technology of storage. Okay, maybe I have the formula here. No, yeah, I am. So yes, the formula is here. It's required. So the formula is given by that. Okay, these are the basic data of the model. So in a number of cases, people thinking about that understand that the storage cannot be higher than what it is when you have zero storage. Then it can be smaller than. They have the same mental process to get convinced that the actual storage will be the equilibrium storage. Okay, so there are conditions for stability. Now what we do with Jean-Charles said, okay, now we introduce speculators. Okay, we will ask people who have not storage capabilities to come into this world and to participate. So we open a futures market, okay, where everybody can participate. Okay, you have storage capacity, so you in a case, but you don't have. But you come to the market and you do it. So that's a very standard story, obviously. What happens in this story? First of all, the world is slightly changed because the people who store now have no longer uncertainty on the price at which they can sell their wheat. The wheat, they sell it on the futures market, okay, at the given price of the future market. But then for the remaining they are cut into, they become schizophrenic, okay. As producers, they sell it on the future market, but as speculator, they intervene also on the futures market in order to make some profit that they expect. Okay, so we have everybody. Okay, in a sense, it's become less risky for producer, but everybody is also a speculator. Okay, and that's a new equilibrium. So what do you see on this new equilibrium? Beautiful. Friedman is right. Okay, Friedman is right. In the new equilibrium, the volatility of prices is smaller than in the previous one. Improve with sharing. You have more people that share risk and so on. If you, like Jean-Charles and I, say, but what about inductive stability? And you use this criterion, which what happens? What happens is what is here. Then we look at the condition for inductive stability, and the condition is more demanding. Okay, the inductive stability does not disappear, but the more speculators, the less likely it has to obtain. Okay, so speculation introduces some kind of difficulty of expectational coordination that is taken into account in this formula. At all, you may not. I don't claim that you should believe in that and change regulation on storage, but it mentions a problem. Okay, as soon as the rational expectation hypothesis is not equally reasonable across situations, then when you change situation, you should evaluate the likelihood of the rational expectation equilibrium to occur in this situation. Okay, at least now. That's the message. I don't give you the formula. I will also drop, because I think I have not enough time. Okay, recently broke Ohm's von Wegener. So I don't see Florian, but oh, you are here. Yes, so I can talk under your control. I will not say much, because if you are here, I will not. But I have a model in which you have a similar message, so far as I understand. Okay, you have people. So it's evolutive learning. Okay, in my terminology, it's not inductive learning, but and you have a certain number of securities that allow people to get insured, but not full, complete market of arrow security. Okay, and people learn. Okay, and so far as I understand, they learn along the line that Florian mentioned yesterday, in the sense that the strategies that are successful are more and more people join the strategy that are successful, and the system works like that. Okay, and in their model, like in the Guesnerie-Rocher model, then the better the markets are, in their sense, the more security there are, the less stable it is. Okay, so it's a very similar. It's in an evolutive concept. It's an evolutive context. The story is probably more intuitive, in the sense that, so far as I understand, you tell that with arrow security you have more insurance, and security that are profitable attract more quickly people, and then the movement of attraction of and the movement of people towards strategy becomes quicker, and then destabilize learning. Okay, so that's not. That's an issue now. Now I will say just a few words on the transmission of information through markets. Some people here have worked on that. Elranan, Gabriel, Desgranges. I will say a few words. So I will take what Gabriel. We'll start from what Gabriel said. You take a Grossman, basically what is the story? You take a Grossman-Stiglitz type of model. Okay, in this model, people receive information. And you have a Nash equilibrium in the sense that you have your information, but you have information from the market, because the market transmits information. So in equilibrium, you transmit information to the market, but the market transmits information. So it's a Nash equilibrium, it's Nash Bayesian equilibrium, and everything is a standard stuff. Okay, and you see that the market does not transmit all the information that is in the society, but it transmits a significant part. Okay, it works. Naturally, there is I don't come on some of the one paradox stressed by Grossman-Stiglitz, that in this world, why should people acquire information and so on? So forget about it. You have information, people have information. There is a Nash Bayesian equilibrium. It transmits some information, a good deal of information. Is it inductively stable? Okay. The answer is it depends. Okay. I'll take here the condition obtained by Gabriel Desgranges, but Elranan has a work that has echoes this type of result. It's clearly that if the market does not transmit too much information, it's seductively stable. Okay. The condition found by Gabriel is that it's a variance is basically, if you believe, is the variance of theta given your information is smaller than the variance of theta given price. Okay, so if the information you get is larger than the information you get from the market, then it's okay. But if it's the other way around, you cannot converge. Okay, the local argument is diverging. Okay, and the intuition is not too difficult to understand. Is that I am very vague, but the basic intuition is that if the market transmits a lot of information, then you don't trust your own information. But if you don't trust it, why should you transmit it? But if nobody transmits the information, why the market should transmit all the information? Okay, that's the type of story that is behind. Chairman, how much time do you still have?
You have 20 minutes.
20, okay. Okay. So I have other application, but maybe I will come back to them if I have time at the end. Okay, I played with this concept in a general equilibrium context. Okay, and in particular in the model with fixed price and flexible price. Okay, maybe I'll come back on that. I have a result that I like, but apparently I am the only one who likes it. It's really that a key argument for the inductive stability of the Walrasian equilibrium is the value of the Keynesian multiplier. I like very much this result, but okay. Okay, I could sell it to a reasonable journal, also the Quarterly Journal of Economics, but still, it's not well known, I guess. So now I'll come back. I'll come now to what the point that was the point stressed by George. Okay, long horizon and expectational coordination. And now I'll start. I should stop here. It's a little bit provocation. I should not do it. It's a pamphlet from Guiter in the Financial Times of March 2009. Okay. So he says that in financial market and asset markets, real and financial, in general, today's asset price depends on the view market participant takes of the likely future behavior of asset price. Today's asset price depends on today's anticipation of tomorrow's price and tomorrow's price cycle and so on. Ad nauseam. So it does not seem to be very pleased with this. I'll come to the... So he really emphasized that in our model, we take the transversality condition at the end. Okay, is that... and he say, I'll take maybe the last one. I found it fun, but I'm not so, okay. This amounts to assuming that there is a friendly auctioneer at the end of time, a godlike father figure, who makes sure that nothing untoward happens with long-term price expectation. Okay. So obviously it does not, it's harsh criticism of what we are doing, as presented. So I like to look at this Guiter view from the viewpoint I am presenting here. Okay, and I will say, I believe that expectation has to be explained. I agree with Guiter that expectation infinite horizon, in particular it's true in a model with infinite horizon, but I will argue that we have reasonable criteria when agents are short-sighted, and that we have difficulty, conceptual and operational, when agents are long-lived. And that's echoing what George said. It's not contradicting, but saying in a rather different way, I guess. Now I will take first the simple model possible. One step forward looking, one-dimensional, no memory. Okay? It's yt, one-dimensional, yt equal a, y expected t plus 1. Okay? I put here a version that is more sophisticated because I want to introduce the fact, my inductive story. So I want to introduce the fact that people have personal expectation. So I write it a integral of sum of u of w e y e of t plus 1 w dw. So it's an aggregation of all expectation, everybody having some weights. Okay, when you aggregate, when they have all the same expectation, it's only yt equal a y expected of t plus 1 equal to everybody. That's clear? Okay. Now it's a very simple model. When do we like? So it has a very simple, solution. Yt equals 0. It's a steady state. So if you can, when do we like this solution? We economists. Okay. No. Before saying that, I say there are other solutions. Okay. That's called perfect foresight equilibrium that are of the form yt equal a yt plus 1. That's perfect for site equilibrium, and you have as many as you wish. Okay, perfect for site equilibrium, and you have the steady state. Now, what has been mentioned, stressed in the literature? The first criterion that has been stressed is called determinacy. Okay, determinacy means the steady state is locally isolated. There is nothing in the neighborhood of the steady state. Okay. Now I have put here. Here I put yt plus 1 to the right-hand side, okay, to the value of yt plus 1. So when yt plus 1 is high and yt is like this, you are in the case of determinacy. Okay, yt equal a, yt plus 1 when a is smaller than 1. Okay, the equilibrium is determinate because the other perfect for site equilibria are far from it. In the other case, it's indeterminate. Okay. That's the criterion. We economists like the case where it's determinate. There are other criteria. Absence of sunspot equilibrium, that's something that I like, particularly a taste that I share at some stage with Mike. What is a sunspot equilibrium here? I have put some, again, it's too bad that I cannot show it, but here you are at period t and you have two possible states of the economy, one which is yt positive, the other yt negative, okay, and I claim that this is a sunspot equilibrium, in the sense I am in the case where a is greater than 1, okay, and when the average, and there is, when you are in the top, the probability that you are tomorrow in the top and tomorrow in the low equilibrium is given by what happens on the sun. Okay, there is probability distribution on that. Okay, you see that's a sunspot equilibrium in the sense if you have the right probability, then what you expect tomorrow is with some probabilities the high state, with some probabilities the low state, but on average you expect something that is compatible when A is greater than 1 with equilibrium, and the same for the low equilibrium. Okay, if we had here we have a positive A, if we have a negative A, we'll have the same story, and we could see that there is a close connection with the existence of cycles with sunspot. Okay, a point I made with Costa Fariadis a long time ago. But anyway, now that's the second criterion. We don't like if there are sunspot equilibria in the neighborhood. Third criterion, in the flavor, it comes close to inductive stability, but it's rather high stability in the sense of George. Okay, we all believe that the state will remain between some tubular neighborhood of the equilibrium, okay, of the steady state. And if we all believe that, then should we believe that it will take place? Again, it's a common conjecture. Again, it works if A is smaller than 1, because if you believe that all the state in the future will be in this, then these beliefs generate actual states that are within the tubular neighborhood. Okay, if you believe that tomorrow it's its neighborhood, then today it's its neighborhood. Okay, so that's a third criterion, and the third criterion still gives the same answer. You like A smaller than 1. Now, in fact, that's general, okay, and we could put that in a more sophisticated model. In fact, the three criteria are equivalent: determinacy, absence of sunspot equilibrium, expectational stability in terms of IE stability. Even there is a fourth criterion that is equivalent, which is the fact that adaptive learning rules converge. All adaptive learning rules converge, but I have to add reasonable. And reasonable means that they can detect cycles of order 2. Okay. Why? What does that mean? That means I take standard learning rule, but I put what happened in even period and what happened in odd period in different boxes. Okay. And I compute that. And that relies on a not well-known theorem that I prove with Mike, again, which is not so easy, by the way, but that improves a lot the stuff. So the four criteria are equivalent. What about inductive stability? Inductive stability is a little bit more demanding than IE stability, because it takes into account the fact that people might react positively to increase of expectation or negatively. So it's more demanding, but not so much. Now, this story can be generalized. Okay, it can be generalized to one step forward-looking memory one, where we have the standard saddle pass condition. Okay, and in this case, the three first criteria, all these criteria remains equivalent as soon as they are viewed on bearing on growth rate. Okay, because this system is one step forward-looking without memory in growth rate. Okay, and so you can develop that, and also there is still equivalent. So Buiter is wrong in a sense. Okay, economists have thought a lot on what makes coordination, on criteria that makes coordination plausible, and whatever the way they looked at it, they found the same stuff. Okay, so that's with George we have seen a generalization of that with a multidimensional generalization, and again we have determinacy, iterative expectational stability, and absence of sunspot equilibria in some sense are equivalent. Learning rules cease to be equivalent, okay, because what do learning rules in this complicated system? We don't understand it, okay. And again, the inductive stability makes it more difficult, makes the criteria more demanding because they take into account the heterogeneity of expectation. But it's not entirely different, okay. Now, what is long horizon agents? Okay. I take the Ramsey problem, okay? You have these people, and I take that base... 10, okay. So that's based on the... It's clearly a Ramsey model. That's the one we looked at with... I became introduced to that thanks to George and Bruce. No, I knew the Ramsey model before, but I did not know about it was called also RBC model. So this is clearly the Ramsey model in which we look at the steady state equilibrium. Okay, K equal K star forever, and we are trying to see whether this steady state equilibrium is deductively stable. Okay, if common knowledge of rationality, common knowledge of the model implies that people will. Okay, and we will take neighborhood. That's why it can be locally true. It cannot be globally true, obviously. We can take neighborhood that are tubular. Okay. Initially, people believe that the capital will be between the steady state capital plus epsilon and the steady state capital minus epsilon. Okay, and given that, they think about the system. Now, what are the problems here? The first problem is related with this picture. First, what happens as time t does not only depend on what happens as time t plus 1, that was the short-sighted agents, but what happens at all other times. Okay? So, for example, the reduced form is yt equal a yt plus 1, that's my previous say, plus I put ab yt plus 2 being expected, obviously, plus ab square at a plus square, okay? And now the first question is very simple. Assume that you have what happens relate to the belief according to this rule, okay? When the fact that you believe that everything is in its tubular neighborhood implies that today remains in the tubular neighborhood. That's the first condition. Okay, if you want, and in fact, and the answer is yes. It's not when a is smaller than 1, which is the determinacy condition of the previous work. It's when a plus b is smaller than 1. Okay. So the first condition, as people have long horizon, then what they think about the future has a lot of possible influence on today. Okay. So, and that condition, we call it with George and Bruce weak inductive stability, but in fact it's the closest condition to determinacy in a model like this. Okay, it has the same flavor as determinacy. But now it's not finished. Because the question, if you are interested in inductive stability, is that assume that people have this belief, okay, initially, that my starting belief. Now, with this belief, the logic of my story is that they try to see, everybody has this belief, where the system can go. Okay. And now the question is that when they think about the system, they have to avoid belief, from this belief, they should not deduce that the system will go away from that. Okay? Because that means that starting from this belief, I think that I cannot rule out the fact that the system will go away from that very quickly, for example. Then I stop. Inductive stability is dead at this time. Okay. So, question, in fact, in the RBC model, what happens? It happens that this occurs. Okay. When you have belief like this, then it does not prevent you from believing that it might be the case with belief like this that the trajectory becomes very far away. Why is that true? That's true for something that you know. Okay, we only compute how the decision of the agent depends on their belief from now to infinity. Okay, and this gives formula of the kind. Okay, for example, dCt over C star. DRS is a change of interest rate on the past that we compatible with our view of the world. Okay, and you see that you have beta over sigma, sigma of T of DRS. So when you are very far away, okay, when you are very far away, then all the interest rates between today and this date play a role in the plan you make. Okay. Now, in order to understand what people do, you have to also that's the second equation in blue. Okay, you have to also understand what they do at period zero, and all this has to be compatible. In the model we have here, the belief does not change expected welfare. So you have this equation that tells you that that is the second equation that allows you to understand how my plans react to my belief on capital accumulation. Okay. And the answer is that it reacts, first, it reacts a lot at the beginning, but this can, in some case, weak elective stability does not react too much. Given that we know that we are in this tubular neighborhood, we cannot deduce that the economy will stay in this tubular neighborhood. We understand that people make plans that are extremely sensitive to their view of the future, and the aggregation of this plan may go outside anything that we have fixed anyway. So strong inductive stability is dead here. Okay. And that's the only model in which I found, in all models you have conditions for that, and conditions for that. So here is the condition for weak inductive stability. That's my first story. Okay. Weak inductive stability relates with, I will not give, but it's entirely intuitive, okay, with the second derivative of the production function, the elasticity of substitution, the elasticity of marginal utility, and so on, in a way that it makes a lot of intuitive sense. Now, as I'll finish with that, as George said, okay, in this world, the fact to say that it's common knowledge, okay, I am a theorist, as a theory, the fact to say that it's common knowledge that the state will remain in the neighborhood is meaningless. Okay, so in this world, what you have to use evolutive learning. Okay? You have no way to converge. So what we do with Bruce and George is really to take evolutive learning when people have a sufficient statistic of the capital stock from now up to infinity, and they revise it according to an adaptive learning rule. But in order to keep the spirit of this approach, we do something else. We require that during the learnings, then the system remains in a neighborhood. Okay? We say we use that it's not common knowledge, but it's a kind of convention. The convention is that in which everybody knows, everybody believes, and that governs its behavior at the beginning. It's convention that the system cannot go away from the tube. Is it the case that the system, whatever the adaptive learning weight, we will have this first convergence to the equilibrium and remaining in the tube? Okay. What happens is that when you are in the weakly eductively stable case, then for some, if you react quickly to the change of capital, then you remain in the tube. Okay. When you are outside the weakly eductively stable, naturally, everything goes away. And naturally, I am tempted to say that when we go away for a while, it's more demanding than usual learning story, okay? Because we say that when you go very far away from the equilibrium, then people cease to believe in what they are doing. Okay? If you add that, then we have also a rather negative view, but not entirely negative. We have some learning rules at work, depending on the stability of the system. Okay, I suppose I have 0 minutes.
Oh, you have 1 minute.
1 minute. So I had just, so thank you.